Good morning. Thank you for joining me for this edition of Status Hearing. Let's see how here we go. Let's see. So today we're going to start on the back as we usually do. I want to go through those energy lines again today. And I want to introduce this morning the front energy lines and be a little more systematic with how those are introduced and how you can utilize those in some of the exercises that we're doing. The goal behind the energy lines is simply to give you a basis for your attention. So when we're doing any kind of physical activity, there's so many things that you can focus on and so many useful things that you can focus on. This is just one suggestion. And I have found that it's helped me stay very focused on what I'm doing. It's helped me to better isolate the body movements for a stronger foundation, a stronger base in my hips, in my feet, and in my shoulders. So when we start on the back, let's just start with some mindful diaphragmatic breathing. Inhaling, filling the belly, feeling the belly fill. Exhale, just allowing the belly to fall. And take a few moments, a few cycles of breath here, and just let it happen. I'm pretty much just letting the breath cycle occur at its own speed. The only thing I'm really focusing on is the area in my belly. Probably for me, it's in my lower ribs. For me, that's part of my belly that tends to be kind of lazy. So I'm breathing into my lower ribs, and that's helping me fill the belly and the chest. And for me, this tends to be a central when I first take a couple of diaphragmatic breaths in the morning. My body doesn't begin to separate into right and left halves like it does later. Right now, it's just sort of a front and a back. There's a front half and a back half. And as I inhale, the front half expands and lifts toward the ceiling. And as I exhale, I feel the front half falling into the back half, as if the back half is a tray and the front half just kind of sinks down into that tray. And for me, that image of the tray helps me ground through the back of my body a little bit better. It's as if the back of the body is the support. It's the grounding. It's where I'm establishing my base. The front of the body is the one that's sort of going out into space and then coming back and going out again and coming back home. Now, when I begin to put a little effort into this, deepen the breath intentionally, and then put a little effort into pulling the belly back down toward the floor. Here's where I begin to feel energy lines because I'm making an effort at this point. I'm not quite just letting everything happen. So here's where I begin. For me, I feel first those rear lateral energy lines. So if I divide the body up into a right half and a left half, and I focus on my right half, The portion closest to my spine is what I call my rear medial energy line. And the portion closest to the outside of my body, I call my rear lateral energy line. And I have that on one side of my body. Go to the other side of my body, same thing. There's the midline, the rear mid-medial midline. That's along the left side of my spine. And there's the rear lateral line along the outside of the left side of my back. So I like to think about this as dividing the body in two halves right along the spine. And to the right of the spine, I have my right medial and my right lateral lines. To the left of the spine, I have my left medial and my left lateral lines. And for now, let's just think about those lateral lines running from the backs of the shoulders, down the side of the body, around the edge of the hip, down the outside of the thigh, outside of the calf, circling around the back of the heel, all the way down to the bottoms of those 2.5 outside toes. And in fact, it is 2.5 outside toes. There is a nerve that divides that middle toe. So this downward energy line runs to the outside. It runs along the back of the body and it runs downward. All right, so back of the body, outside, running downward. And I have another line on the opposite side of my body. That other line runs down the opposite shoulder and down along the back of the calf, around the end of the calf. If you recall, I talk a lot about the outside corner of your heel. This is the outside corner of your heel. And that is a downward force. And then we pass that, and that's no longer a downward force. It becomes an outward force. So when the feet are on the floor, I can use the outside edges of the bottom of my feet to lengthen through my feet. I can use the outside edges of the bottom of my heel to ground down through the back of that heel. I can use the outside edges of the back of my thigh to lengthen up away from the floor, because this line, it just sort of follows the shape of my body. So, and I've spent a lot of time on rear lateral lines, but I'm going to do it again. Probably more time than I've spent on front lateral lines, but I think it's the front lateral lines are a little harder to picture. So let's start with those rear lateral lines again. Start at your shoulders, and just as you exhale, we're going to run the line down the outsides of the shoulders, outsides of the back, outsides of the hips, run up the outsides of the thighs, down the outsides of the calves, and out through the bottoms of the feet. As I inhale, I relax. As I exhale, I start at the shoulders and send those lines down. Inhale, fill the belly. Exhale, go back to the shoulders and send those lines down. Now, in fact, as I'm sending those lines down, I'm feeling myself ground into the floor a little more firmly. The lines are pulling my shoulders away from my ears. And the lines at my hips are pulling my lower back away from my shoulders. And if I go to the backs of my thighs, the lines are pulling my thighs away from my hips. And if I continue to move down to my ankles, the ankles are pulling my calves away from my knees. And the heels are pulling my feet away from my ankles. And the toes are pulling my toes away from my heels. So it's a long chain of activity. And the benefit of it is that it lengthens the back of the body. Now, what's the benefit of lengthening the back of the body? Well, the more actively I ground through those back lines, the more energy I generate to raise or to lift away from the ground with the front corresponding lateral lines. We'll go into that. I'm going to stop there. So let's just exhale and activate those rear lateral lines. Inhale, you can relax, or you can begin to think about inhaling, lengthening up toward the ceiling. Exhaling, grounding down toward the floor. Inhaling, lengthening away from, I like to think about lengthening away from the earth. Exhaling, returning to the earth, grounding. Inhaling, drawing energy from the earth to rise. So I want to add one more thing to this idea of the rear lateral lines, and that is, instead of starting from the backs of the shoulders, we're going to move the line up a little bit, all the way up to the corners of the back of the head. So if I put my hand on my head, I can feel there are sides of my head and a top of my head. And I can kind of find the rear corners of my head, and I can move those lines down to the corners behind my ears, those aural, A-U-R-A-L, aural bones. And that runs down and out to my shoulders. So I've got this line that kind of moves a little bit outward and downward. And that's where I'm going with this. So as I exhale, I'm going to begin to draw my aural bones toward my neck. I'm going to draw my neck toward my shoulder, and my shoulder toward my ribs, and my ribs toward my waist, and my waist toward my hips, and all the way down. And then I'll inhale and lengthen up through the front lateral lines and circle back down through the rear lateral lines. So if imagining the front lateral lines helps you make more sense of the rear lateral lines, go ahead and do that. If it's too much to think about, just focus on the back. You can't get the back wrong as long as you're trying to pull your shoulder blades away from your ears, lengthen your neck. That is everybody's biggest problem, is this shortness between the aural bones and their trapezius muscle. So lengthen the neck by fixing the head in space and then sliding the shoulders away from the skull. And that should actually feel pretty good. So inhale, relax, or you can think about lengthening up the front lateral lines. Exhale, lengthen down the rear lateral lines. So I'm going to go through some exercises a little more quickly now, just to illustrate this idea of rear lateral line. So I'm going to extend my left leg, actively flex my left foot, send energy down the left rear lateral line. Inhale, either relax the front of the left of my body or extend up the left front lateral line. Exhale, extend down. Inhale, exhale, extend down. Keep focusing on the left line. As I inhale, I'm going to raise that leg. As I exhale, I'm going to push out through the sole of my foot, Make the back of that leg as long as I possibly can, and then press it into the floor. Inhale, raise that leg. Exhale, flatten as much of that left lateral rear line to the floor as I can. Inhale, just kind of relax on the inhale. Exhale, push and extend out through the leg. Inhale, exhale, push and extend out through the leg. One more time. Inhale. We're going to hold this up now. And now I'm just going to gently bend the knee and push out through the sole of my foot. Inhale, bend the knee, relax. Exhale, push out through the sole of my foot. Push out through that rear lateral line. Push out through the rear lateral line. One more time, push out through the rear lateral line. Now push out through the rear lateral line, the bottom of the foot, extend it all the way out through those outside 2.5 toes. See if now when you exhale, you can extend those toes so long that they might even come to the floor. They might not, it doesn't really matter. But what matters is that you're lengthening all through here, and you can use the entire back lateral line from the head all the way down to the aural bone, all the way down to the shoulder, all the way. All of this can give you strength. It can give you momentum for lengthening all the way out through the toes. So exhale, lengthen through that back lateral line, through that left lateral line. Inhale, relax. Exhale, lengthen. Inhale, relax. Let's do 2 more. Lengthen and lengthen. And notice this. When you pull the belly on your left side, when you pull it down toward the floor, do you feel yourself able to better emphasize that rear lateral line? Hopefully you do. And that's taking one more nice deep breath as you exhale, will gently relax. And that's how this ties together with this plain old diaphragmatic breathing. When we talk about the diaphragmatic breathing without the lines, I constantly say we're pulling the front to the back. We're pulling the sides to the center, and we're pulling the top to the bottom. And that corresponds with those rear lateral lines. Now, wait a minute, doesn't that contradict something else that you just said? It does. It's a little more complex. It does, but there's actually an explanation for it, of course. So hold that thought. Let's switch sides here. So again, push out through the right side of your right rear lateral line. As we exhale, send energy from the corner of the head all the way down, out through your heel. And if you want to, even travel it up so the toes are reaching out up to the ceiling. Now, again, it gets to be a lot to think about. So just think in one dimension. Just think about sending energy down and out through the bottom outside of your foot. Inhale, taking that energy from the earth, from the environment. Exhale, send it down. But as I drop the front to the back, and as I draw things in toward the center of the body, I feel how that outside back line can assist with this. So let's go ahead now and raise the leg on the inhalation. As you exhale, push out through the sole of the foot, making the leg as long as you can. Inhale, loosen up a little bit, raise. Exhale, push out through the sole of the foot, through the outside, bottom 2.5 toes. Now we're going to raise it up and hold. Exhale, push out through the heel. Inhale, ground, fill the belly. Feel yourself get bigger. Exhale, send the line down. And now exhale again. And as we exhale, turn the angle here of the toes? Can you exhale, send the energy around the heel and out through the toes and all the way down to the floor? You may or may not touch the floor. It doesn't matter. The idea is you're sending the energy there. And as you get stronger, not only does your muscle strengthen, but your ability to send a nerve impulse down this line gets stronger. And part of your flexibility, part of your mobility, part of enhancing that is going to be strengthening and increasing flexibility of the muscle. It's also going to be sending a stronger nerve impulse to where you want it to go. All of this stuff gets better with practice. It looks so simplistic. It looks so like, how can that possibly help? Well, I mean, my leg's pretty extended. I got some flexibility going here. I haven't always had this. And the only thing I can attribute it to is daily silly little things like this. I'm not doing a whole lot. I'm just practicing. So inhaling, exhaling, sliding that leg backward and feeling that resistance too. Wow, I'm not there yet, am I? There's no way this foot is going to touch the floor behind my head. But there was 2 years ago, there was no way this foot was going to come this far away from the floor either. So we'll do 2 more. Inhale, exhale, lengthen. One more time. Inhale, exhale, lengthen. Now we've done one leg at a time. How about both legs at a time? I'm going to have you wrap your arms around your knees and bring your right arm to the outside. The arm on the outside is going to work a little bit harder. Most of us, when we hug the knees like this, tend to hunch up the shoulders. So let's go back to the rear lateral line, start at the head, and just send the line from the head, the outsides of the shoulders, down the back, and out through the hips. We're not going to go any further. We're just going to send it a little line out through the hips. And what that's going to help us do is lengthen the neck, stretch through the shoulders, and maybe pull the navel back toward the spine a little more firmly. And I just said navel to spine. When we're focusing on rear lateral lines, we're actually pulling the sides of the waist down to the backs of the waist. Okay, so I'm going to start differentiating there when I'm talking about that. So I'm wrapping the arms around, turning my attention to that rear lateral line, sending energy from the back corners of my head down to the back corners of my shoulders, down the sides of my back, sides of my waist, and out through my hip bones. Send it right out. Inhale, fill, relax. Exhale, flatten my core. Inhale, fill. Exhale. Now you may or may not be noticing, gee, my legs are really pushing against my arms, trying to pump my arms apart. Well, that's true. Can you, if you want to, if it's too much to think about, just stay with your hips. If you want, though, you could extend that line down and out through your heels, and that would help you flatten your thighs or your calves against your thighs a little bit more. And that would help you stretch the back of your neck and the back of your shoulders a little bit more. So we would inhale, relax, exhale, send it all the way down and out through the heels. So it starts at the head, it goes all the way down and out through the heels. Inhale, fill, exhale, flatten, and send all the energy down through those rear lateral lines. Two, and 1. And relax your knees. Let's bring the arms, just keep the right hand on the outside, bring the arms against or above the head. Starting at the elbows this time. So now we're not going to stop at the shoulders. We've got the arms extended. So now let's go to the rear lateral line of the arm. So we're on your triceps. Start at the elbows and send those lines down. Elbow, down the tricep to the shoulder, to the back of the shoulder. Down the shoulder along the sides of the back. Down sides of the back along to the hips. Hips to the outsides of the backs of the knees, to the outsides of the backs of the calves, to the outside corner of the heel, to the outside edges of the bottoms of the feet, and out through the outside 2.5 toes. Inhale, exhale, send it all down. Inhale, exhale, send it all down. Maybe feeling your feet even pushing into the floor because you've got that downward momentum of that outer rear line. And now let's change hands here. And just for the sake of time, I don't have much time left, but I do want to make sure that we change hands so that we get a little bit of extra stimulus in the left arm. So that opposite arm goes on top here. Nice deep breath in as we exhale. Just think about sending energy from the outsides of the shoulders to the outsides of the hips. Two more times. One last exhalation. And release. And let's switch here. So outside arm. And I'm sorry if I'm confusing. Whatever arm you didn't use last time on the outside, use it on the inside, on the outside this time. And let's start again from the elbow straight down and out through the hips. Inhale, fill, relax, exhale. So you're pulling those shoulders, and hopefully this feels pretty good on your neck. Hopefully it feels pretty good on your shoulders. If you push your feet into the floor, and you're pushing your feet into the floor because of that downward force from your calves, you can lock those feet into the floor a little bit and almost push your upper body away. And that helps you tuck your shoulders under your back. So we'll do two more like that. And last one. And relax. So I did receive some feedback on this. It's that I had someone who was asking questions about this, and I sometimes feel like, oh, we've got to vary this all the time, and it has to be new and exciting every time. But perhaps we need to not make it so new exciting. Keep going over the same things, and they make more sense as you keep hearing it. Hopefully that will be the case. I'm going to do a little bit more of that. So let's finish out with final Shavasana. And this time we have focused pretty closely on the rear lateral lines and the fact that energy directs downward. See if you notice any effect of deliberately directing your energy downwards. Do you notice fatigue in the backs of your shoulders, perhaps, or in the back of your waist, in the hips? Where I'm noticing it right now is in the backs of my calves, right underneath my knees. I'm very tight there, and I'm very tight in the backs of my thighs, right above my knees. So I'm really feeling that there. And all we're doing here now is just noticing that the fact that we made some kind of effort to manipulate energy in the body. And in fact, there is a palpable change. There's something I can feel in my body as a result of the way that I manipulated the energy. I was sending the energy along the outsides of the back of my body. I'm feeling fatigue in the outsides of the back of my body. Now I'm also feeling a little fatigue in the front inside of my body, which actually makes sense. We'll get there later. And now I'm just gonna sink into that feeling, whatever it is. Is it fatigue or just warmth? The point is, I directed energy in my body, and I was able to make a change in the way the body felt. And it doesn't have to be a pain. The body doesn't have to be pain. It doesn't have to feel burning. It doesn't have to be a negative consequence. I certainly can't deny that there's a consequence. I certainly can't deny that I'm feeling sensations in the body. But it's not unpleasant. And I always end up coming to this way too late in the class, which is this idea of becoming cognizant of body sensations and how that helps to bring me to the present, and how that is a very safe way of beginning to recognize that we have emotions that affect our bodies. We have emotions that affect our minds. Body movement itself affects the way our bodies feel, affects the way our minds feel. For me, these simple little exercise directing energy through the body, it's very invigorating for me. It makes me feel like I can do this. Sometimes I wake up and I'm not motivated, or oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed by my day, and I just kind of direct my energy, and man, this isn't hard. I can do. Okay, so maybe I don't have to do everything that I was planning to do today, or maybe it won't all go a certain way. All right, but I did this, and I can do this. I can do this. And take off another little bite. And that little bit of inspiration, just getting here, feeling movement of the energy. There's something alive in there. There's something that I can help blossom, help bloom. That can make me better. And it gives me a lot of inspiration that maybe I can help others around me as well. Take a few more breaths here. Experiencing the body sensation, and maybe experiencing any sensations or emotions in your head, maybe not. Hopefully that little bit of body invigoration, the fact that you're in contact now with the body, see what it can do for you. Take that with you. We'll bring ourselves back from Shavasana in whatever way feels comfortable. Again, I love a long stretch. Gentle twisting to the sides. I find when I sit at my desk, I get very tight in through here. So this always helps me loosen up through my hips. Whenever you're ready, roll to one side and bring yourself back to a sitting position. I hope this was helpful for you today. I'll be back again tomorrow at 7 a.m. Central. Today, I'm going to run my strength class today at 1 o'clock rather than noon, experimenting with the times to see if sometimes might work better for some people. Um, I don't really get any feedback. So if you do have feedback, I have my email address on the YouTube page on the description. Feel free to let me know whether certain times or whether there are formats that you like. I really like this to be useful. I will be here regardless because this is so helpful for me. I need it. So I'd love to be able for it to be helpful for other people. And if there's something specific in particular that I can do, I'm happy to do that. Otherwise, I'll show up and I'll be here at 1 o'clock today. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Namaste.